Hi, Rick Warner here, Sturdi-Built greenhouses. We're in our Solite display unit. Today we're going to talk about creating the right environment for your greenhouse. Once we get the structure and the design and the layout figured out for a customer, the next part of the equation for setting up a good greenhouse is creating the right environment. And we focus on 5 main factors. We talk about heat, ventilation, shade, humidity, and interior air circulation. So we're going to start here with heat. Typically a home greenhouse is heated with electric heaters, and I've got a couple examples here. This is a 110 volt heater. This is meant for a smaller greenhouse, lower temperatures, and then this is a 240 volt heater that's used in a larger greenhouse, or a greenhouse that is being heated to a higher temperature. There's no one right answer here for everybody because it depends on your conditions. If you're in a very cold climate, North Dakota, Alaska, those areas, you're going to need a bigger heater than if you live in Southern California or Oregon or some of the other warmer states. The other thing that's going to affect the size of the heater is the kind of plants you're growing. And if you're growing orchids and really warm weather orchids and keeping your greenhouse temperatures at 60 to 65 or even warmer as your minimum temperature, you need to have a bigger heater so you can create that amount of heat. If you're growing you're wintering over plants, maybe doing some citrus, that kind of thing, where you just need to keep the plant from freezing, you can keep your temperatures at 35 to 40 degrees, again, needing a smaller heater. So electric heaters are often used. The other option is a gas heater, and there are 2 kinds of gas heaters, a vented gas heater and a non-vented gas heater. They're also available in LP gas and natural gas, and so we try to work with each customer to figure out what kind of heat and size heater and the type of heater is best for their use. The next key factor I usually talk to customers about is ventilation. On Sturdi-Built greenhouses, they're all built with overhead roof vents as part of the standard package. The number of roof vents depends on the size of the greenhouse, and to a certain extent your locale. Want to get the right amount of ventilation for your particular need. What we do recommend is that they be equipped with automatic vent openers, and this is an automatic vent opener here. It's a bayless self-contained vent opener. It has a tube that's filled with a wax that expands with temperature, and that forces the roof vent open when it gets warm. Usually start opening about 65, 70 degrees, fully open by about 85, 90, and fully open is about a foot. And then when the temperature cools down, it contracts and closes. So that's our preferred method of ventilation. The other method is an exhaust fan system. And an exhaust fan system uses an exhaust fan that's usually mounted high in an end wall, and that pulls the hot air off the top. Usually have an intake shutter low and the non-door end, so you get a nice flow through the greenhouse. You're pulling cool air in low, extracting the hot air out the top. Couple of cautions with that: if you're in a dry climate, that can really dry your greenhouse out quickly. So we want to be careful to increase the humidity level in there with a misting system or a fogging system. It's a great system in the southeast where it's humid and warm. You're not dehumidifying at all, and you're ventilating very effectively. So those are the 2 main means of ventilation with a home greenhouse. After heat and ventilation, we talk about shade, and shade is an important factor for plants, because plants can actually get sunburn, just like we can. It's a little different process, but we got to offer some shade. And then also shade helps the greenhouse from overheating. The most effective way to add shade to a greenhouse is with shade cloth, and that's what I have up here on this. This is a piece of shade cloth. When we make shade cloth, we hem and grommet it, and we supply some stainless steel screws to snap it down over. But by putting the shade cloth on the outside, that traps the sun's energy on the outside of the greenhouse, helping the greenhouse from not overheat. And then the mesh can be various densities, and that gives you a different level of shade depending on your sun exposure and the part of your country you're in. Here in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, we don't need a whole lot of shade. We need it in the summer months, but a place like Arizona needs a lot of shade because you get sun so often year-round. Now the other way to provide shade is through some of the glazing materials, and This is a piece of twin wall polycarbonate. This is a popular material to use in the roofs of our greenhouses. It has some R factor because it's a double wall system, but it also diffuses the light nicely. You can see you can't see through it, so that's diffusing the light. That keeps the plants from sunburning. It won't help a whole lot of keeping the energy out of your greenhouse, but will offer some nice diffusion for your plants. And the other material that we use as an interglazing in our thermal option is this white twin wall. And it has about a 30% shade factor. And so it diffuses the light even more. Again, it's not going to keep the energy of the sun out because this is on the inside of the greenhouse and not on the outside like a piece of shade cloth. So those are the different materials that we have available to help with shade. And we've got to take that into combination with some of the other factors in designing and equipping your greenhouse just right for you. Next factor to take a look at is humidity. And in most greenhouses, home greenhouses, we recommend a porous type floor. You can see I'm kneeling here on a walkway that's concrete blocks on sand, so it allows the water to flow through. We've got gravel, pea gravel in this case, underneath the benches. This gives a place for water to go when you water plants so that it doesn't pool up somewhere and it soaks in. But it also gives you a moisture sink inside your greenhouse. So you can soak this floor down and let natural evaporation pull the water into the air and create humidity. And this humidity will help your plants from drying out. So this is our first line of defense, is having a good floor, soaking it down now and then to have some moisture in the system and create some humidity. There are cases, it's usually again orchids that need a really precise humidity level to grow properly, that we add a mist fogging system like this one. This is hooked up to a humidistat, and so it keeps a specific range of humidity for your plants. This also might be something you'd want in a really dry climate, dry climates, your high desert climates like eastern Oregon, Arizona, New Mexico, those areas where, geez, it's just so dry, you need to add that extra humidity more directly than just soaking the floor down. But those are usually the two ways of creating humidity in a greenhouse. And in a hot, dry climate, it's going to be the humidity, ventilation, and shade that make a big difference in your plant's environment. The last thing I usually talk to most customers about is interior air circulation. And interior air circulation keeps the air in here moving. It's especially important in the wintertime when you have heat. Heat's going to rise to the top, so you want something that kind of circulates it around so you have pretty much consistent temperatures throughout your greenhouse. The other thing that a circulating fan is very important for in a climate like we are here in Oregon is we have a very humid climate in the wintertime. We've got the greenhouse closed up. There's not much ventilation because we're trying to keep the temperatures. You got to keep the air in here moving to mitigate mold and mildew and keep it at a minimum. And it's really a much healthier environment for your plants if you have the air moving around. Along with the circulating fan, keeping constant temperatures and helping with the environment for mold and mildews, as we discussed before. The other key thing is plant movement, and with seedlings especially, it's nice to have the stalks move a little bit. It grows a stronger stalk, a healthier plant, a better plant to transplant outside. So seedlings really like it. There are some orchids that also like some movement, so a circulating fan plays a role in that part of the environment as well. To summarize, what we've talked about today is setting up the right environment for your greenhouse, and we've focused on 5 main factors: heat, ventilation, shade, humidity, and air circulation. We feel that those are the basics to having a good greenhouse environment, so we want each one of our customers to have those basics covered so that you can be successful that first year with your greenhouse.